Alright, Brickers, just want to start today's episode by saying a big thank you very much for all your support, especially recently with the launch of this YouTube channel, getting the sponsors on board. It's your support is what's made everything happen. It's allowed this build to happen much quicker. It's certainly improved my motivation. I love seeing all those messages on Instagram and YouTube and just reactions to things. People getting as excited as me about the project. It means the world. So let's get going with episode 12. I didn't film this, but the engine is out and it's hanging on the crane. I didn't want to film removing the engine. It came out in about half an hour anyway, but I've already filmed me pulling out engines and putting engines in over the first 10 episodes, so didn't want to film another one. It's out anyway, and it was relatively trouble-free. Now, what we're doing, why is the engine out of the car? There's a few jobs to do. The sump is on with a couple of bolts, no gasket, that needs sorting. The gearbox is on, but there's no clutch or flywheel in there. I've got the clutch now, so I can put the clutch and the flywheel on at some point. I'll just go around the other way. Got a timing belt kit, as explained in the previous episode with when I went through all of the parts. So we're going to do the timing belt while the engine's out. We're going to generally clean up the engine as well. There's a few little bits to put on. Do spark plugs, coil packs, intake, exhaust manifold and exhaust manifold gaskets later. And there's not that much else really to do with the engine. I'm not opening it up, it's just going in as it is. So there's two oil drain holes from the turbos from the factory 2004 XC90, because it's had two tiny turbos on it. I'm going for one moderately sized one. What I need to do with these two holes is tap them, and because they're 16mm wide, I'm going to tap them with an M18 tap. I need to get an M18 tap. Much of this is unconfirmed at this point. We'll kind of figure it out as we go. But my plan at the moment is to use an M18 tap the two holes while I've got the sump off, get everything cleaned up. And with that M18 thread, I'm going to thread in some adapters to go to a male AN10, and then one of them at the back of the engine, I'm going to just blanket off with the AN10 fitting. And then the other one is actually going to be the oil drain for the new turbo with an AN10 line, and then that should be all good. So tapping those two holes is one of the bigger jobs that I've got to do while the engine's out. It's got that things like, this plate here from the XC90, this weird plate thing. That needs removing. Might put the oil filter. I've got an oil cooler sandwich plate thing coming. I need to put that on, little bits and bobs. But while the engine is out, it's not just work on the engine that I need to do. While the engine's out, I also need to turn my attention to the engine bay. Oh, I don't know if you can see. Found my ratchet, it was on the floor. Yeah, I need to turn my attention to the engine bay, like the front here. This is all rusty. Again, I'll try and show you better with different video. This is all rusty. It really lets the car down being front row center, especially with all the shiny things in the engine bay. I need to give this whole engine bay just a really good wash for starters. So I can see what I'm looking at. Maybe there's things like, the aircon pipes that I might blank off. I'm toying with a couple of ideas. One is moving the battery to the back of the car, maybe an ABS delete, who knows, it's not even working at the moment. There's like the fuse box, the windscreen washer. I'm not going to go to town on making this engine bay look like a show car. everything at this point just needs to be functional, get the car running. So I'm not going to go too far, but you know, there is a few little jobs. I mean, there's like a cruise control box here, that needs just removing. And then I need to start thinking about the ECU. I think first what I'll do is I'll offer the ECU, like the terminated harness, up to the engine. Just plug some stuff in, you know, see how things are fitting up. But yeah, at some point I need to get the harness, the ECU and everything in the engine bay, and also think about where I'm putting the ECU, you know, behind the bulkhead, wherever I'm going to put it inside the car. There's a lot to think about with the ECU and the wiring. There are wires that I need to add as well. And one big job I need to think about is how I want the ECU to talk to me when I'm in the car driving. And at the moment, I think what's winning is I'm going to try and get the factory speedo and rev counter working, and the rest is going to be on an Android tablet in the middle of the dash. I'll have the software on there that talks to the ECU. I'll be able to see every single piece of information I could possibly want: oil pressure, temperature, AFRs, all the rest of it. And also maybe have some functionality towards different boost maps, or, you know, turning the electric fan on permanently, things like that. So there's a lot to think about with the ECU. I'm hoping that we're going to learn together, because I've got a heck of a lot of learning to do with the ECU side of things. I've already mentioned it quite a few times. You can see how nervous I am about it. But yeah, essentially a few little jobs to do with the engine, and then while the engine's out, just tidy up this engine bay a little bit. And then gradually, as we tick those jobs off, at some point we'll be ready to put this unit back in the car. So because I need to get the engine on the engine stand, first job, lower the engine down, whip the gearbox off, and then lift the engine back up and get it on the engine stand. So we've got it nice and secure, ready to do our little jobs. Well, now I've got the engine on the stand, started to give it a little bit of a clean up, but apart from that, I'm not going to start any more jobs tonight because I'm going to go to bed. So see you in the morning.